There's basically two premises with which we have to be concerned. The first one is basically, okay, you and I live next door to one another. You're downloading a movie. I'm updating my Twitter account. Obviously, at that moment, you need more bandwidth, more internet than I do. So what the internet service provider does is, quote, manage the network. They say, okay, you get more internet than Seton does right now, but later you're done with their movie, so they move it over to me. Comcast gets 1 million URL requests a second, and they manage it. So it's very impressive for them to do that. Net neutrality says you can't do that anymore. It turns the internet into dumb tubes. It's socialism for the internet. Everybody gets equal amounts of nothing. It's not unlike telling the fire company, okay, that guy's house is burning down. The guy next door is brushing his teeth, but you get equal amounts of water for both houses. That's one facet. The second facet of net neutrality that's problematic is, okay, say you need to mail a package. You go into Federal Express. You can mail it in 7 days. You can mail it in 3 days. Obviously, you pay more for the faster service, but there's 9 million examples in the private sector where you do that. First class versus coach on a plane, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Net neutrality says you can't do that either. It tells the hospital that needs to download its MRI for its dying patient, you don't get any more bandwidth, no matter what you pay, than the guy next door who's downloading the Panda Sneezes video on YouTube. So what it is, okay, so you ask, you hear this and go, why are they doing this? What is the purpose of doing this? Because it's an assault on the industry to affect an ideological outcome. One of the problems is everyone hears tech and hears net neutrality and internet and interwebs and starts glazing over and doesn't pay attention. What you have to realize is these are media Marxists, and they're Marxists. And what they want to do to the internet is no different than what they want to do to the healthcare industry, no different than what they want to do to the financial industry. This is an assault on the industry to affect an ideological outcome. There's a man by the name of Robert McChesney. He's an avowed Marxist. He is also a college professor. Please pardon the redundancy. He is he's the godfather of the media quote-unquote reform movement. His objective of net neutrality, and I'm going to quote him not directly, but it's close, is the net neutrality is the necessary first step in eradicating the media capitalists from the phone and cable companies and divesting them from control. How very Hugo Chavez of him. So the purpose of net neutrality isn't to create neutrality. It's to create an untenable economic environment for private investment, which will subsequently be followed by government investment, at which point government becomes the sole internet service provider. And at that point, if you're a conservative website or a small government website, how's your downloads going to be? How's the government going to treat your traffic vis-a-vis newrepublic.org or not, whatever New Republic's website address is, or Salon or Mother Jones or, MoveOn.org? How are their websites going to be treated vis-a-vis? Because you're going to have rationing of bandwidth just like you're going to have rationing of healthcare. And then the government gets to choose winners and losers. And guess who's going to be winning? The big government folks. So anyway, the point is, going back to the net neutrality argument, when you heard about when the stimulus bill got passed, of all the atrocious things, one of the atrocious things to come out of it was the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, was charged with coming up with a national broadband plan, which they did, the initial numbers of which were upwards of $350 billion. When people like myself and others said, whoa, $350 billion? They said, oh, it's 20 to 350 billion. It's a range. And I said, that's a heck of a range. But the point being, if your objective is to drive the media capitalists and their investment out of the sector and replace it with government, $350 billion is a pretty good down payment, is it not? So that's the point of net neutrality. The point is to create a situation so untenable and so unworkable that all the private investment will dry up and go away because they can't get a return. At which point, somebody needs to come in and ride in and save the day, and that's government. And that's why net neutrality exists. That's why it's been created or thought up or dreamed up in 2002, 2003. And that's the objective of net neutrality, is to slam down the door on the effective free speech, free market Xanadu we have, make it untenable to make any money on the money you put in. And let's face it, it's hundreds of billions of dollars, which means you need to get a pretty good return on your investment if you're going to ante up hundreds of billions of dollars. It's economics of scale. If you're only going to invest $10, you don't mind making $2. But you don't want to make $2 if you put in $100 billion. There's better ways to spend your money. So the purpose is to shut down private investment and replace it with government. And then not only does it so right now we're fighting a free market fight against net neutrality. But the free market fight very quickly begets a free speech fight once the net neutrality proponents start getting what they want, which is more government involvement in internet service providing, because then they get to start choosing, okay, this website does better than this website, this content does better than this content. To argue that the media capitalists, the people investing the hundreds of billions of dollars now, are more likely to control content than the government is patently absurd, because if you don't like Verizon, go to Comcast. If you don't like Comcast, go to AT&T. You only got one government. And if they're running the roost, they're a built-in monopoly, and they get to choose content. And once they're choosing content, you're done. Look, it's taken hundreds of billions of dollars to get to the point we are now, and the evolution in the last 10 years has been extraordinary. 28K dial-up to high-speed bandwidth now in 10 years is unbelievable. Never in the history of the world have we had this much advancement in one sphere as we have in the internet. And the reason that's happened is because there's virtually no regulation. They're wide open to do whatever they need to do to get the job done. They have to answer to their customers. They're in a constant battle with one another to deliver the new cool thing. Look at the phones, look at the service, all of that. All of that is generated by competition, and that competition begets a lot of investment. If they slam down net neutrality, it's the little Dutch boy with his finger in the dike of private investment. It's the Dorian Gray Act of the internet. If you like the internet the way it looks right now, slam down net neutrality and it'll look like that forever. It's reminiscent of the cars situation in Cuba. Everybody's driving 1950s cars because that was the last time they could afford cars, and now they're held together with chewing gum and baling wire. That's the way the internet's going to look. And it's not going to be like tomorrow. The vote's the 21st of December. It's not like on the 22nd, it's going to be awful. But that's not how it's going to go. It's going to be a degradation. It's not going to go from 60 miles an hour to 0 miles an hour. It's going to go 60 to 55, then 55 to 50, then 50 to 45. The healthcare situation, and people understand this, and the parallels to the healthcare Obamacare regulation are very, very good and pertinent. It's not that the healthcare system is going to be bad the day after things start getting enacted. Thank goodness they haven't been yet. But we're already seeing reactions to this bad policy. The premiums that Obama said were going to go down have dramatically gone up. The people are dropping their employees from their benefits. They're not going to cover them anymore because they can't afford them. All these things that are happening to the internet, to healthcare, will happen to the internet. And it'll happen more and more, because what will happen is as net neutrality becomes more the law of the land and becomes longer enforced, more people are going to be dropping their investment. More people are going to be degrading their service. And it's not going to be all at once. It's going to be gradual. It's going to be ongoing, and it's going to be perpetual.